So hi, welcome. My name is Katie. I am a member of the Youth Engagement Transition Initiative, or YETI, and we are very excited to be sharing a lot of the stuff about youth and young adult engagement. So this is we're going over some of the goals of YETI, along with how to engage your youth on these state teams and transition-related meetings. And at the very end, we're going to be talking about the 2022 CBVI state teams and the request and recruitment of youth on those teams, and then share some resources. So if you could type in the chat your name, title, agency, and state, so we know where you're from. A little bit about me, and then we'll talk about everyone else. My name is Katie Russell. I am a freshman environmental studies major. I go to Damon College in Buffalo, New York, and I'm originally from Austin, Texas.
Great, thank you. And if we could just go through, and I'm going to stop share for a second, and if other folks can go ahead and introduce yourselves, that would be great.
My name is Amanda. I am 20 years old, and I have a associate's degree in special education from Lehigh Carbon Community College, which is in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And I'm currently getting my bachelor's at Kutztown University, which is also in Pennsylvania, to become a teacher of the visually impaired.
My name's Abigail Hertzberg. I am a freshman at Austin Community College. I graduated from Cedar Park High School in 2021, and I am getting my associate's degree right now in marketing. I hope to transfer to a four-year university, possibly North Texas or Texas State, and I currently work part-time at Kohl's. I am on the autism spectrum, so I'm advocating for transition into adulthood for those with disabilities.
Hello, my name is Noor. I go to Rollins College in Florida. I am taking a bachelor's degree in social innovation and a minor in cultural anthropology and Latin American studies. I'm 19 and I've got into YETI due to a passion for disability advocacy and disability rights, and as a disabled person myself, as autistic myself, and with other disabilities, I felt compelled to be able to be with my wonderful team members over here. So that is all.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Stout. I am a senior at Albion College in Albion, Michigan. I'm studying biology and music, and next year I will be starting a Master's of Public Health program, because I am very dedicated to advocating for people with disabilities. I personally have epilepsy and type 1 diabetes, and I'm on quite a few programs related to that, including the Pediatric Epilepsy Project in Michigan and multiple American Academy of Pediatrics groups dedicated to disabilities.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Scanlon. Thanks so much for being here. I'm representing CPAC, which is a Parent Training and Information Center, as the youth coordinator. And I'm also a mentor in YETI. And yeah, the team's amazing here, and we're happy you're here today. And I'm really passionate about bridging mental health, transition, disability. How do you make transition holistic and really putting those puzzle pieces together?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jerry St. Louis. I am also a mentor with YETI. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I am also a doctoral student at the George Washington University. I work with youth in transition, LGBT youth in transition, who also have disabilities. Thank you all for being here.
Great. I think that's everyone. So
just one more. Sorry, Michael.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Megan. I didn't mean to miss you. Oh my goodness. I thought I had everybody. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Hi guys. My name is Megan Michaud. I am also 20 years old. As Amanda said, I am a freshman with the STEPS program at ACC. and I am speaking up for people who have any sort of disability or anybody who is struggling to get their voice heard. Really, I guess. I also have autism and dyslexia, so I am really excited to be here and help everybody get to their goals. So
Great.
hope
Thanks,
you guys
Megan. And
learned
I'm
something
so
today.
sorry I missed you.
No, you're good.
Alrighty, so we are going to go ahead and get started, and let's slide to our next slide. And hold on one second. Let's screen share.
Michael, your camera's off.
Yep,
I don't know if you did that.
Hang on one second. And there we go. Cool.
All right, thanks so much, Michael. And I wanted to start with this slide. I think support and opportunity equals success. That's something one of my mentors told me. And I think if you've been with us before, we've used this slide again. And the reason we all love it is it's really talking about values. How do we as YETI, as a group, how do we help young adults move forward? How do we help systems change? And I think that really boils it down to you really have to have both. And what I mean by that is sometimes out there in the world, what at least I've personally seen is you can fall into one or two categories. When you just have support, that can sometimes be stifling, that can sometimes come across making decisions for young people. But at the same time, if you just have opportunity, that can easily delve into setting young adults up to fail. If you're like, oh, you got this, or just pushing young adults forward without preparation, without feedback, without guidance. So I think we're really all about that harmony, right? Support and opportunity together. So what does that look like? How do you build capacity? That's what we're all about. And just wanted to share this quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned people will never forget what you've said. They will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's really what we're all about. So I wanted to share that framework. We have a lot of content today. Take notes, ask questions. We're here for that, and enjoy.
So what is YETI? It is a Youth Engagement Transition Initiative. It's a national youth engagement and leadership advisory council. And the purpose of YETI is really to include youth voices in directing and supporting the work of NTACT. We do resource development and use. So we're developing resources. That's why we're here today, is to share some resources that we've developed and how to use those. And then also training and technical assistance. So again, that's why we're really here today, is to kind of show how can you engage youth. And then we're also here to allow.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're also here to allow NTAC to genuinely engage the perspectives of people with disabilities and to be informed by those perspectives, including a commitment to value and the use of input of YETI. So really, to put it lightly, a lot of people who work in special education, as many of you probably know, it's been a while since you've been kind of part of the youth. So it's good to get that youth perspective to see how things have changed, because especially in this new age of technology, things change so quickly that even a year ago may have been out of date. And so it's good to always get the perspective from different ages. Sorry. So one of the more purposes of YETI are we give young people the opportunity to develop and enhance leadership skills. Really advocating for yourself and just doing a lot of stuff like this teaches you how to take the lead in both advocacy and then all other aspects of life. It honors the lived experience of students, youth, and young adults. We're going to get into that as part of our presentation on why that's important, but it's really important to hear from the youth themselves. It also provides models to state and local teams regarding effective youth engagement strategies and activities, which is exactly why we're here today with you, local teams.
All right, thanks, Amanda. So again, you've probably seen this come up a bunch. This is one of my favorite things. This is what's called Hart's Ladder. And what I love about this is it really is a framework, and it's a really cool way to kind of bring best practices of how are you working with young people into whatever your role is. So really the bottom line is to get up to the top of the ladder, and I'll kind of break that down a little bit more, but obviously just to kind of, one is manipulation, which is yeah, exactly what it sounds like. It's when you're taking advantage of young people and it's really there for your own purposes and not for any of their benefit. Decoration can really look like, oh, we need a youth voice at the table. Okay, just prop them in there and treating them like objects. Tokenism, somewhat of a similar deal. And then you'll notice right around the rung 4 or 5, that's when there's really active engagement. And if we can actually go to the next slide, Michael, if you don't mind, while I'm describing it, this really gives a nice breakdown. And so like I was describing, you'll kind of see here ways of engagement on the left panel, challenges and rewards. And what's really great about this is, I know due to time, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but again, what's great is we use Heart's Ladder to think, okay, where are we at right now? So it's a great reflective practice. And so I think there's a lot of benefit to whatever your role is as an administrator, as a manager, wherever you are, there's a way to incorporate Heart's Ladder. And so the top 3, youth adult equality, you can see here, it's a 50-50 split of responsibility, completely youth driven on rung 7, and youth adult equity. And there's a lot of value in ways to do that. So there's no Heart's Ladder police. I'm not the one that's going to be making the call on that. So this is not to say you must be at a certain rung. This is more of a gentle reminder, a new way to think about it, a new perspective shift. And it's a really neat tool. I'm happy to talk about more about that later on due to timing. We certainly are, again, always open to questions, and I'll answer them later on. But bottom line, avoid the bottom 3. My own personal opinion for youth informed at number 4 and youth consulted. I'm of the personal opinion that's fine as long as we're aware of what's going on. That other people may disagree. Again, that's where this tool is really, really flexible. And so, as I said before, in implementing this, could this look like part of your weekly supervision? Could this look like going over with your young adults you're working with or serving or supporting in some way, and incorporating this in any meetings, feedback? So we always include this in pretty much every presentation because it is such a great tool to really conceptualize how are we doing the work.
This is another slide where if you've been with us before, you may have seen this before. But so when it comes to practical application of youth leadership, there's planners, educators, consultants, board members, decision makers, and policymakers. And you see there's a little bit of an overlap because there is no, it's not a ladder like what Michael was presenting. They're all different ways that you're able to engage youth. In an ideal situation, youth should actually be engaged in every single aspect of this. You can be planning various things, even if it's just helping plan an IEP meeting. You should be educating others and on how to best support you. Consultants, which is what YETI basically is we're consulting and tact. Board members, you can be board members on various different organizations. Decision makers, you should really be able to make decisions, whether it's in your own life or it could be in a administrative or legal aspect. And then policy makers. As students with disabilities, we know our disabilities best, and we should be also included in helping make these policies.
So YETI has suggestions for professionals like me to best engage youth and young adults. So the tip 1 is let youth speak. Designate a specific time on the agenda for youth to speak. That is super important because you need to hear their voices and their opinions. Youth participation needs to be more than optics. This is super important as well. Earlier when Michael was talking about having the youth there, but having their opinion be valued and important and taken into consideration in the conversation. Be open to youth ideas and feedback, even if it's difficult to hear. All feedback we get is not going to be positive, but all feedback sometimes is necessary in order to build and in order to move forward. So taking that feedback, even if negative, and helping to grow from it. And last but not least, give youth tangible things to work on. Giving youth tangible things to work on also builds their confidence because they feel like they also have contributed to the success of what they're working toward.
Our second tip here is related to the first one in terms of also giving youth the space to speak. so making it easier for them to speak. Related to that, it helps to have an effort for the adults participating to learn the language that the youth themselves are using. It's challenging to try and change the way that you are talking just because you are with a bunch of people who have more experience. And related to that is avoiding jargon. It's confusing when you feel like you're surrounded by people who are using a ton of language that you've never heard of. And it's unrealistic to expect that younger people are going to have a background in all of the terminology of those who have spent a long time within a specific field. Similarly, make sure to have plenty of patience, because it can be both challenging to try and share things, it can be frustrating, and it can be sometimes just takes a lot of effort. So if everyone around you is patient and gives you plenty of time, that makes it a lot easier. Also, to create a space for change. If you feel like they are not being heard and that what they are saying isn't making a difference, then there is a lot less of a reason to share anything. And also to respect the boundaries set by young folks. There are things that we are not going to want to talk about because they are not exactly what's the most positive thing to be sharing. So there's nothing wrong with asking questions or trying to receive more information, but if the youth say that they don't want to talk about something, respect that opinion. Lastly, take what the young people say at their word. Similarly, we appreciate when you ask us questions and respond to our words, but do not question whether we are giving you the appropriate information or saying the right things if they are not what you want us to.
Going off for Elizabeth's point about giving you space to express their stories and themselves, this is what we will be going through. So
I think Nor, we're a slide ahead. I think Megan has this one, if I'm not mistaken, 17. Is that Megan, right?
I believe so. I wasn't here for the last meeting, so
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not sure
good.
if I'm right.
You're good. Yep. So go ahead. You're on, Megan.
I'm going to read because I'm not as experienced as the rest of you lovely people.
And if we could, and I know this was in a just from the interpreter, we can just slow down a little bit and the presentation would be cool. So it's pace. Go ahead,
Definitely
Megan.
used to that with my classes, yes.
There you go.
All right. So I think really what we're trying to say with this slide is we need to spend time mentoring our young people and loved ones. So that means taking time to teach youth the systems, whether that be Bluebonnet Trails or in Taxi or whatever it is that you're in, whatever program that you're in. Provide lists of typical acronyms and lingo. I'm going to bring up that when we made our palette, we used the word ableism a lot. And I'm not exactly sure what that means again, but I think it would be good for people to know the acronyms and lingo and speed of up-to-date terms so that we're all on the same page and it is easier to teach people who have a disability. And then also have a goal in mind and think about the resources you can offer to best support youth with that goal. And what I really think that means is the more you have a goal, the more easier it is to achieve something and really make sure that the youth and people who have disability can get to their goal. And so that they can just be best supported by those that they love as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Megan. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. And hold on one second. And Nor, you're on.
So another tip that we had going off from the earlier points that was mentioned is about how youth are the experts on their own experiences, and how professionals need to know this, and how this is vital when dealing with youth and young adults. You need to recognize that there are experiences and their way of identifying themselves are important. So you need to recognize that firstly, so there are some youth that may choose identity first versus person first. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. And when you're when you're discussing in IEP meetings or in a general situation, when you're discussing with someone with their accommodations, please listen and honor the accommodations that they are talking about. They know their own experiences, they know their own needs, and it will help honor this bond that you are having with young adults and youth. So that is very vital and important. You also need to be aware and respect boundaries, as earlier stated in the previous slides, making sure that you understand that there are things that our youth or young adults are not going to be open to say, and that is totally fine and okay. And you need to know this. You need to understand that we have grown with the information that professionals that are given sometime about disabled people, especially to people who are able-bodied, is rooted in this systemic ableism, which ableism is basically the prejudice and discrimination against disabled people in favor of able-bodied people. So that is something to keep in mind in terms of definitions, going on earlier of that slide. Need to understand that a lot of the language that professionals and people are taught and perceptions are rooted in that. So that is very much something you need to keep in mind when you're talking with youth and they are sharing their own experiences, and to best accommodate them. And also, please take the time to learn about what your youth are being invited, who are being invited into these teams, these state teams and spaces with the adults and the professionals who may need to know and are passionate about, take time to get to know them beyond the professional setting and to build that bond. So be able to have the full scope with them. So I think we all think that it's very important to be able to know this. And another thing that is really important for professionals to know within this tip and within the fact that youth are experts on their own experiences, to know also that it's not the young adults or youth's job to educate you all the time. So make a point to be able to do research on your own time. So that is very important. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nora.
So my
Go ahead,
tip
Abigail.
to lighten up. So maintaining friendly and congenial environment is one of the best things to do, especially at work. Our Coles group is a really positive bunch, and social interactions are important. I'm doing social interactions 24/7, and getting to know each other is one of the best things to do. I love getting to know my coworkers, my friends, and even these old guys right here.
Great.
Thank
Abigail.
you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
So know that we will be having the Capacity Building Virtual Institute meeting within May 3rd to May 5th of this year. Please make sure you have at least one youth or more than one youth registered on your state teams. We please advise you to have more youth and make sure you have those youth within those state teams. And yeah, I will pass it on to Michael.
Great. Thank you so much. And we do have the landing page, and the registration is up now for the Capacity Building Virtual Institute. So you can find that. And if you go to either our webpage, whoops, sorry, one second. You can find it from our webpage. You can also go directly, and let's open it. And hopefully we can get the show here. It's gonna be 1 second. And so when you go to the landing page, you can find this here. And hang on 1 second. If looks like we could just, if Abigail, if you could mute, because I think we're getting some feedback. Appreciate that. So this is the landing page for our Capacity Building Virtual Institute. You can register for the May 3rd through 5th event. I also wanted to mention, as you scroll down, you can actually see the agenda for each day. And I did want to point out something for the agenda. If for the agenda, the team planning times are listed. So the reason I'm mentioning that is, as we're talking about student, youth, young adult involvement, you really, that individual, that student, youth, young adult, really just needs to be involved on the team planning time. So we know time is really an essence for folks. So in looking at that, hang on 1 second, let me see. Okay, there we go. Got that muted. So again, team planning time on the first day on Tuesdays from 2:15 to 4. On Wednesday at the Institute, it is from 1:45 until 3. And then on the last day, on Thursday, May 5th, there are 2 times, 1 to 2. And then again, we have an additional time from 4 to 4:45 for state teams. The way that, if you've attended the Capacity Building Virtual Institute the last couple of years, we're going to be running that the same way, in that state teams will set up their own platform for that, send out the link to their team members during those times. So again, the point of kind of going through all that is when you think about engaging a student, a youth, or a young adult for your state planning team for the Capacity Building Virtual Institute, think about especially those times for state team planning to bring that individual on board. Hey, just give us 1 second. Let me switch back to our PowerPoint. And let's talk just a little bit about how we and the through NTEC and YETI are going to help to engage and support students, youth, and young adults who will be attending. So just give us 1 second, and Katie, if you can help me with this slide, that would be great.
Yes.
Just hang on, and you're on. Thanks.
All right. So we have in advance, as you can see, Tuesday, April 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm currently in Central time, so that would be 7, and then so forth. We have a planning meeting for these youth and young adults, so they know kind of what they're getting into instead of just diving, head first into the CBVI. That's really overwhelming, and how they can advocate for themselves, what they can do. And so we really advise everyone here to start, looking for youth on these meetings, and for your state teams and local teams, whatever it may be, to start looking for youth and to bring them to this meeting so we can talk with them as youth to youth on what to prepare for, that kind of stuff, because we've talked a lot about what you guys can do to make sure that youth are actually heard on your teams and how to best support youth. But this is a more how these youth can support themselves, how they can, prepare themselves, how they know to advocate for themselves, all that kind of stuff. And this is before the CBVI like whole conference. This is before that. So they have some preparations going in. So we don't just, oh, look, here's our youth and dump them into like, this whole giant thing. They have some preparation beforehand. So this is Tuesday, April 26th at 8 o'clock Eastern time, because, we want youth to be able to talk to other youth on like how to do this kind of stuff, because, I've been doing this stuff with this group for like a year now. It's a learning curve every day, and you have to, CBVI is this huge thing, and it can be overwhelming even just doing our little stuff. And when you don't know what you're doing and you're just getting into it. And so this is what this event is for, is so that youth can learn and talk to other youth who have done this or hosting this, so they have some preparation going into this conference.
Thanks, Katie. And I think in the past, so this is, we've had multiple years of the Capacity Building the Capacity Building Institute, and for the last 3 years now, the Capacity Building Virtual Institute. And there hasn't always been a lot of student, youth, young adult involvement. There were a couple teams that did bring on students, youth, and young adults, but that was really more of the exception than the rule. And really, at NTech, the collaborative are valuing the input of our members here from YETI, but also from your own states. It really does help in the planning, the preparation, as you come as a state team and are looking at your goals for the coming year, to have that feedback, to really hear from the folks that this is really all about, those students, youth, and young adults. So again, thank you, Katie, for going through that. And really the emphasis of the focus for this year's Capacity Building Virtual Institute, highlighting student, youth, young adult involvement. So the next piece that we want to talk about, and we're going to have several of the folks here from our YETI group. The YETI folks met a couple of, well, for the last 2 months, and they were talking about, one, the information you had just heard about from a professional lens, what should professionals be aware of in engaging students, youth, and young adults. But they also talked about how to best prepare young folks for this process. So how to best prepare students, youth, young adults to participate. So we are going to go through, and they worked on a discussion. So that meeting that you saw, that webinar that's going to be on April 26th, what will occur there is a discussion on how best these young folks can be prepared. And we're going to show in a minute some tips that the young folks had put together. We put them into a Padlet. So just give me 1 second. So we will hear from Noor and Elizabeth. Just give me 1 minute. We'll add our folks in here that are going to be presenting. Amanda and Don, and also Abigail. Okay, so we are, as we're looking at this, and we're going to go into the Padlet, these are the main topics. So looking at strategies that young folks need to prepare to engage, knowing their needs, how to express any difficulties they may be having, and then how to best follow up. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the Padlet, and our YETI folks are going to go through that for us. So just give me 1 minute, and we will share that with you. Okay, so ladies, you're on.
So hi, I will be covering a bit on the strategies for meeting participation for youth and engagement. So the first tip, as stated on the Padlet, is to be able to read over the outlines and descriptions of the meeting and where you can contribute. Make sure to be able to read this through. So make sure to basically outline maybe in your head, or put into your head where you can contribute. So that will make it better for you to outline everything you want to say, and to be able to engage and contribute better as an advocate and do self-advocacy as youth. please don't hesitate to ask for previous meeting materials or recordings or PowerPoints to help you be in touch with everything that you and keep up to date with everything. So don't be afraid to do that. So also don't hesitate to bring your own questions before and during meetings and be ready for that. Prepare yourself.
Sure, hang on. There you go. There are some more.
Be uncomfortable at times. So to be able to have, so just to be prepared to ask these questions. Connect with those within the meeting would be another strategy, as said in the Padlet. Make sure you're connecting with your participants, members within the meetings, and make your voice heard. Prepare to make follow-ups to these meetings. There's no such thing as one meeting. To have multiple meetings ensures to be able to have more participation and more engagement. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts and ideas for what should be in future meeting agendas. So you make sure to have your voice heard. And it is difficult, especially when you're going into this as a first time and even later on. But know that your input and participation and engagement is valuable and should never be excluded from this meeting. So make sure and understand that this should be included in meeting agendas. Also, to understand where your experience is more important, meaning in what context can your experience be heard. Make sure that you are highlighting that experience and making sure that within the meeting and when you're talking and engaging with people, with youth and with professionals, make sure that you are you're connecting those experiences. Don't be afraid to use your own story. This is for you to be able to use your own engagement, your own self-advocacy in where you're comfortable. Of course, you need to be able to set boundaries, and you shouldn't be afraid to set these boundaries, to talk about conversations and topics and themes, to address these issues that you want to be addressed, and to make the group hear about them and to discuss them. So this is why it's so important to make sure that you have strategies to be able to participate and engage comfortably and with boundaries. And I'll pass it off to my next presenter about the next topic.
Okay, I will be talking a little bit about how youth can know their needs and also how to ask for them.
And just as a reminder, Elizabeth and the rest, if we can just slow down a little bit in presenting, would be great. Thank you.
Okay. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having specific needs, and therefore it's great to know the appropriate way to ask for them. So it's important to ask for supports and accommodations that you will need in order to participate and engage in the meetings. If everyone you are working with wants you to be a part, then it should be part of their goal to make it easy to be a member. So ask. They are not automatically going to know what your needs and accommodations are. And related to that, it helps to know the strategies that we were just talking about for how to ask for things, and specifically how to ask for your accommodations. Can you go back up a little bit, Michael? Sorry. And similarly, it helps to inquire about how accommodations are communicated within the post-secondary environment and or in the workplace, and what to do if they are not provided after the initial asks. So oftentimes there are systems for asking for accommodations and finding the best way to get support. So in order to use these systems properly, it always is easier to ask questions. And similar to what we talked about earlier, it's completely acceptable and a good thing to set boundaries and share what these boundaries are so that everyone knows what you are comfortable sharing publicly. There is certainly nothing wrong with only having specific things you are comfortable talking about. That is very realistic. Once again, as we talked about earlier with language, advocate for using plain language so that you can understand and be able to appropriately contribute. Now we can go down a little bit. And when you are sharing your own experiences, make sure you consider these and advocate for yourself and remind those around you who are participating with you that you are the only person, these are your experiences. But you are just one person. So it's making everyone understand that there are a lot of different experiences and perspectives present. So yours are important, but always helps to have more. Also, since you are the person who has the disability, it's important to be confident in saying you are the expert. That as much as everyone else works to try and understand, they will not be able to have the experiences of living with your disability. And also, there is nothing wrong with challenging the committee or the meeting's norms. If you are telling your story based on your experiences and that happens to challenge what is considered the standards. Your goal is to share information to help everyone understand experiences, including those that go against what is traditionally perceived on any situation.
Great, thank you.
So jumping off of what Elizabeth said, she talked about how you are the expert on your own experiences. And that's where I want to go into our next one, which is don't be afraid to share your grievances. A lot of times we just want to keep the peace. I know I'm definitely guilty of that when it comes to advocacy. When I was younger, if someone didn't meet my accommodations in the way I needed them to, I would often just stay quiet. But you really want to be able to speak up as the youth, and even if it goes against, even if you have to tell someone that what they're saying is not correct, you have to tell them that. Something that is pushed a lot in the special education world is the use of person-first language. And a lot of times you have people who do prefer person-first language, so that's the default go-to. But there are also people, myself included, who don't like person-first language. I feel that it takes away from my personal experience. So instead, for me personally, instead of being called a person with a visual impairment, I prefer to be called a blind person or a legally blind person, if you want to get more accurate. And so if you don't like the way that someone is referring to you, you want to be able to speak up and tell them that your experiences are your own and only you understand exactly what you're experiencing with your disability. So you want to really make sure that you're advocating for yourself in that regard.
Great, thank you. And hang on one second. I think I might need to unmute you, Abigail. So just give me 1 second. Sorry about that. And you should be good.
All right. Prepare to follow up with any questions you might have, and then anything you would say before you attend the next meeting. And for any suggestions for the next meeting, I'd say get more of the panelists asking questions so we can answer. It's very, very important for us as presenters and panelists to get some feedback.
Right, exactly. Thank you so much. And just prepping for those next meetings, I think it's what we're talking about. So thank you. Thanks for going over the Padlet. And again, the information that we just shared is the tips and some of the information that will be shared during that April 26th webinar for the students, youth, and young adults who will be presenting or engaging with your state teams. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Michael and Jerry, and just give me 1 second to change screen. So gentlemen, just give me a second here. Okay, you're on.
So YETI at the 2022 CBVI, it'll be held on Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 from 12:10 to 12:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's what time the opening keynote speaker will start. And on Thursday, May 5th, 2022 from 3:10 to 3:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when the closing session and the YETI panel with students, youth, and young adults from state teams will begin.
Thanks. And we wanted to highlight too, so I think the importance of really this focus on student, youth, young adult engagement is really, we're bookending the Capacity Building Virtual Institute this year. So it's really starting off with this opening keynote. And the other thing too, and I know Jerry, we talked about this the other night when we met, the head of the Office of Special Education Programs and then the Rehab Services Administration, so OSEP and RSA, are going to be presenting with you all, right, to show not only the higher leadership engagement, but also the focus and the importance of engaging young folks in this process. And then the closing session is really going to be something that the young folks that are on your state teams, students, youth, young adults, will be providing feedback on their experiences and goals and planning for that next year. And I'm sorry, Michael, I didn't want to cut you off, but just wanted to make sure we were making those few points. So back over to you.
No, thank you for that. And yeah, as Michael and Jerry were saying, I think it's important. And first of all, I will promise to do my best to slow down. I'm a Connecticut guy, New England. Maybe in the past I was an auctioneer. I will promise to slow down. Yeah, so I think you've heard a lot today, really on, like Michael was saying, an example of how is something done successfully with young people. Like we said, it's not just dropping young people off in a room. Great, it's all about you. There's preparation, there's feedback, there's planning with, not doing for, there's no surprises. There are those authentic conversations. So I think there's always a lot of behind the scenes work, as you saw with the Padlet, or that was really built over, many meetings, conversations, and really you're working from a foundation of trust, respect, mutuality, all those things that that are just very intuitive, and you can feel it when you're in a room. It's not always something that yes, you can teach it, but young people are so intuitive. They know what's going on, even if you're not going to say anything. So it's when young people feel safe, feel heard, feel valued, that's when you're going to get those honest conversations. And the reality is, some of what might come up is not going to be all positive. It's really about having that, what's working, what's not working, and really moving forward with that. There is no perfection. So the good news for all of you here today, there really is no, I think a good meeting actually is when you have the reality checks come in. The goal should not be, look how perfect we are. I think it's actually better, right, Jerry, when there's those honest conversations. So you can, because it's fooling no one at the end of the day. So, and I think we've had that many, those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. And also gives us a chance to be honest with each other And also as a mentor, it gave me a chance to say, I don't know this specifically, please teach me.
Exactly. I think it's getting from that spirit of learning, of growing, getting your ego out of the way, asking for help. It's all of those. And so it's a process. It's not like a start A through Z jump and skip everything in between from the alphabet. So so in efforts of time, I'd love to talk more on that, but really going over towards resources. If we can move the slide forward, you'll see a lot of great resources. And as we talked about, it's really giving you a foundation of the history of youth voice, terminology, language, the latter I talked about, keys to youth voice, the cycle. I mean, Jerry, this is a great conversation. The honest, truth is, I just turned 33. I'm in a mentoring role. I got started late in youth advocacy around 24, 25. So, it's about valuing everyone's experiences. What are you doing? And so it's there's that trap of aging out, so to speak. So do you have a plan in place in your program and what you're talking about? If you're considering youth and young adults for whatever age you're working with, right? Let's just say 16 through 25. Are you gonna drop off the cliff when someone's at 25? And again, there's no judgment call on that. It's just having those foundational pieces in place that, I'll put my email in the chat later, but there are ways to for sustainability purposes and really helping people move forward, thinking about beyond black and white brackets and really thinking about youth adult partnerships and the fluidity of life and being human. Did I miss anything, Jerry?
No, but I did want to piggyback off of the cycle of youth voice. I self-identify as gay, and I work with LGBT youth in transition. And there are certain, and I'm 30 plus. And so there are certain resources that are available to youth now that weren't necessarily available to me, that I can help with connecting youth to. And there is another connection that we have. We both identify as LGBT. I know certain struggles to kind of help move them along. If we can go to the next slide.
Sure.
So the second page of resources are guidelines for youth voice, honor the youth voice, youth adult relationship spectrum. That's super important, especially if you need the youth to open up. Building the relationship is very valuable. Creating safe and supportive environments for youth voice. I make sure that my environment is always open so that you know that they can say anything to me, so that they will be heard. Institutionalize youth voice. The diversity of youth voice is very important. New roles for youth voice and the youth voice movement. And the third resource is discrimination against the youth voice. Myth about youth voice, some sustained youth voice, assessing youth voice. Michael, did you see anything you wanted to add between these at all?
Yeah, and I think just at the end of the day, this is a lot of great material. I'm going to be fully honest. I know, at least for me, when I see a lot of resources, it can seem a little overwhelming. So I just want to say, for at least me personally, anyone here on this, presentation today can email me. I think it works really well when there's options and choices. So anyone who wants maybe a jumping off point or a quick chat, like, I'm happy to offer that. I think that what YETI is all about is offering choices. I think we're learning, right? It's not a one size fits all. So I think it's a blend of getting honest with yourself. Where are you at as a person, as a program, wherever you're at in your role, and really going from there and maintaining that spirit of learning and growth. And yeah, just you'll see here the rest of the resources. I mentioned youth adult partnerships. I'm huge on that. I'd love to do a training on that again at some point. And just different tip sheets and organizations. So I think really it's learning that, we can't do this alone. We're all about collaboration. So if you have questions or anything on your mind, just let us know.
Great. Thank you, Michael and Jerry. Appreciate that. And as we wrap up, did want to let folks know that can provide some feedback to us regarding today's session. You will be receiving tomorrow an email from Zoom with the link to do the evaluation. It is actually linked to our transitionta.org website. So you can go there and complete an evaluation, give us your feedback on today's session. I did want to thank especially the folks from YETI who presented today. Really appreciate Abigail and Noor, Megan, DJ, was helping us in the background, Katie, Jerry, Michael, and Elizabeth and Amanda for being with us. A lot of time went into the background of this. We look forward to working with your state team, students, youth, young adults, that you're able to reach out and have participate with you this year. We know that it's not necessarily an easy ask given schedules and timing, but it really is valuable. And it makes such a difference as you are working on your activities, your programming, the information you're providing to your states, both at the state level, the regional level, and the local level, to really have that student, youth, young adult voice as part of the work you're doing. So again, thank you for joining us. As a reminder, you can find information on our website, transitionta.org. If you have any questions, you can send those directly to the email address that is on the screen, ntac.collab@uncc.edu. And we look forward to your involvement at the 2022 Capacity Building Virtual Institute and really hope that you are able to engage students, youth, young adults in this process. I don't know if any of the YETI folks have anything to say as we wrap up and close out today's webinar. And feel free to unmute if you do.
So one thing I had to add is basically kind of just to reiterate, youth engagement is important. So for our state agencies that are out there, if you could gather up some youth and kind of bring them to meetings in the future, that would be really greatly appreciated.
Great. And thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. And if there are no other comments, I'm not seeing any. So again, thank you all. We will stop our recording and we hope you have a great rest of